neighborhood. Specifically, it was a village. It was called Seneca Village, and it was from like 1825 to 1850. We're back with another episode of White Black History because it's stuff that you're not going to learn in school. It was the largest area of black home ownership in the country. That was snatched away. Don't get it confused. The government came in with something called eminent domain, and they were like, here's some pennies for the dollars you spent. That's our land. You don't have a say in it. You got to go. You built a community, a neighborhood, essentially a town, right? Like there were churches, there were schools, there was even like a graveyard and a cemetery. People lived here and died here. And if you rented there, you got a notice to vacate. That was it. There was nothing for you. First of all, this is on the outskirts of Manhattan. I don't know if you know where Central Park is. Manhattan's where the money is in New York. So it's literally the outskirt, right on the cusp, is where Seneca Village used to be, what is now Central Park. If you owned that property 175 years ago, can you imagine what it's worth today? It's insane, the value of this area. It's so much money. What else was affected? Oh, you had to own property to vote, and black people had just stopped being slaves, started to have communities, started to have access to purchase land. With that comes the ability to vote, and with the ability to vote comes the ability to make changes of people who were just recently suppressed. And if you were one of the suppressors, wouldn't you be afraid of these people having the same rights as you? And that's what happened in Seneca Village. Now you can look online and you can try and find some images of it, but Seneca Village, there really wasn't a lot of info on it. So now they had to do like archaeological digs to literally prove that this existed, that this neighborhood was there. And they had to do that because it was overshadowed by this big park that was needed. So if you look it up, you can find what appears to be the outline of a house and like bricks in the ground. However, that got debunked because it was a sandbox from like 1930. So they still literally have to prove that this neighborhood existed. Building of Central Park was such an like monumental process and story that it overshadowed anything else. Like, I don't know, the rights and lives of black people. They needed an escape from the chaos of the urban city, which was New York. That's white black history for you though.
Because if America wanted to do something about what has been going on in Mississippi, it could have stopped by now. It wouldn't have been in the past few years. Between 40 and 50 churches bombed and burned. You see, and this leads me to say, all of the burning and bombing that was done to us in the houses, nobody never said too much about that, and nothing was done. But let something be burned, by a black man, and then, my God, you see, the flag is drenched with our blood. Because, you see, so many of our ancestors was killed because we have never accepted slavery. We have to live on it, but we've never wanted it. So we know that this flag is drenched with our blood. So what the young people are saying now, give us a chance to be young men, respected as a man, as we know this country was built on the black backs of black people across this country. And if we don't have it, you ain't gonna have it either, because we gonna tear it up. That's what they saying.
Yeah. Hello lovelies, welcome back to today's episode. This white man is a content creator, Brian, is trying to tell us more about white black history. This is something a lot of white people don't want to teach their kids or them to know about it, because it is something which was really deeper, and they don't want them to grow up feel guilty of what their ancestor has done. This is something this white man is trying to expose so that people could know that white and black history, it is something deeper, more than we could understand or we would think it is. Let's get to hear him very well. Drop your thought in the comment section, then we'll come back with more commentaries.
These black neighborhoods, but they also burnt down a black newspaper. Today we're going to talk about the Wilmington Massacre that happened in North Carolina in 1898. I think it was November 10th. Some more white black history for you, things you weren't taught in school. So this happened in 1898, which at the time, they had some progressive movements. I'll give North Carolina. They had a biracial government, which was ultimately overthrown by white supremacists. And it's the only successful coup on American soil to date. At the time, this was a group that challenged white supremacy with black Republicans and white populists. That's what I mean when I say a biracial government. So they had something pretty progressive going, and white supremacists were just like, axe that. So the media there was actually a big part of it too. The Raleigh News and Observer actually ran a bunch of white supremacist propaganda, which is crazy. I know, crazy. effectively ended the progress that was done during the Reconstruction era, and it kind of led to stricter and harsher Jim Crow laws in that area. Crazy thing about this is it was pretty much erased from history. It only recently popped back up to be like observed and checked out and looked into. We're over 100 years past there. I don't know what happened. We dropped the ball, America. To this day, the exact amount of casualties unknown, but basically a bunch of white supremacists burnt down black neighborhoods. Any middle class like growth and development for black communities was completely disrupted. It completely erased the middle class of African Americans in the North Carolina area, specifically around Wilmington, which is truly unfortunate because those repercussions don't just come back in the next they don't just come back in the next generation. They're still seeing the effects of this from today. To this day, the exact amount of casualties unknown. So they killed as many people as they can find, and for the record, they also burnt down these black neighborhoods, but they also burnt down a black newspaper, which I think is really important to know in that story, because if you can't tell your side of the story, if you don't have a news outlet to share your side of the information, it's literally gone. And that's exactly what happened in this instance. For decades, there was either misinformation about this or we just left that out. So it's in recent years kind of come back into light. There's a further, not investigation, but there's more reporting, there's more information and knowledge on it. But imagine burning down an entire middle class of a section of the country because you don't agree with them being in office in a public space that they were voted into. Just set them back. But that's white black history.
And people ought to understand that. I don't see why they don't understand that. They know what they've done to us. All across this country, they know what they've done to us. This country is desperately sick, and man is on the critical list. I really don't know where we go from here. Mississippi is still a very rough place. You know, people is not just walking up like they used to do in the past, walking out, shooting a man down or getting maybe 200 or 300 people carrying you out and lynching you, but it's in a more settled way.
This woman's Fannie Lou Hamer, this video is from 1968. And y'all think that we don't deserve reparations? She said that they would round up 200 to 300 people to lynch them. White people was doing this to us, shooting us down in the street. They burned within a short span over 40 to 50 churches. And this only happened in Mississippi. She wasn't even talking about what was happening in every other state around this country. She said it's been happening all over the country. She also said we built this country and the flag is soaked in our blood. And immigrants will come over here and say immigrants built the country. Immigrant black people will get into office and say we don't deserve reparations because they don't qualify. Why should they qualify? This just infuriates me. It really does. And I'm trying to talk calmly. Y'all know I'll be hooting and hollering. But this is a real serious thing that's going on. And I've never been one to be like, oh, reparation is reparation. Even if we never get it, the fact that there's people that's speaking against it, knowing all that we've experienced in this country, our ancestors, genetically, trauma is passed down through the DNA. They'll come over here and say, oh, that's the past. You need to just forget that. 1968, they were bombing churches by the droves. 1968 is not that. People that were born in 1968 are still walking around present day. And this is why I'm so passionate about these type of topics. Because I heard stories like this from my grandmothers, my great-grandmothers, my great-great-grandmothers. I knew them. And when you all come over here and y'all talk down on us and say we're lazy, when we literally laid out the foundation for your funky ass to even be able to migrate over here, is a slap in the face and is disrespectful. And for y'all to try to ethnically erase us and say we don't have no culture without a continental African or Caribbean, when we were here in this country 10 toes down, fighting for our lives, we are the ones that survived. We are the most resilient black people on planet Earth. And I don't care what anybody has to say. You can feel however you want to feel. The proof is in the pudding. Y'all want us to just shut the hell up and let y'all wipe us out and pretend like all that our ancestors went through never happened? Spread love is the Brooklyn way.
He was lynched from this bridge for raping a white woman who he had never even met. Welcome to White Black History. Things you weren't taught in school that are part of your everyday life. Today, we're going to talk about the Ed Johnson Memorial. So this memorial I pass all the time. I actually cross the bridge, which is part of the memorial itself, pretty constantly. Ed Johnson was just one of 4,400 people who were lynched between 1857 and 1950. Those are the known ones. There's probably, absolutely guaranteed, thousands more. Now this bridge connects the north and south end. The north end was primarily African American, the south end was industrial and white. Ed Johnson was a laborer. He worked on this end of the shore, but he lived on the other. A local man accused him, incorrectly, of raping a woman who he had never met for a bounty of $375. He was just trying to collect the reward. Multiple black and white witnesses confirmed that he was working at the time of the event. He gets arrested, he gets taken to jail, and a mob forms outside. Then they move him from Chattanooga to Nashville, which is 4 hours as of current vehicle times. After that, the mob attacked that jail. Now, a sheriff and a judge were up for re-election at this time. That's important because they were supposed to be tough on black crime at this time. Mr. Johnson gets assigned 3 Caucasian attorneys, only one of which was ever handled a criminal case. Ed Johnson is tried by an openly hostile group of white Chattanoogans. People who are from where the crime happened, who don't look like him, who have preconceived notions. And you were white in 1906. There's no way you weren't racist. The judge bypasses all these people saying it wasn't him, gives him a guilty verdict, sentences him to death. I'm gonna read you an exact quote. His lawyers advised him to accept the sentence, recommending it was better to die in an orderly way, better than to appeal and face the lynch mob. Bonus points. A white attorney named Noah Pardon, who was already working the case, convinced the most prominent black attorney in the area at the time, Styles Hutchins, to jump on the case. I don't want to get this part wrong, so I'm going to read it. Styles then unsuccessfully appealed to the Tennessee Supreme Court, and then they petitioned to the United States Supreme Court based on the fact that the fair trial had been violated. This led to him being one of the lead black counsels for the first time ever in a Supreme Court case. However, as history has shown us, they decided at the Supreme Court level that death sentence it is. At this time, they stayed his execution, and a sheriff was assigned to ensure his safety while they potentially reconsidered the verdict. That was March 18th. The very next day, a white mob storms in. Literally storms into the jail. Sledgehammers, crowbars, whatever it took, they break into the cell. Those are actual tools used. They dragged Ed Johnson 6 blocks, bound in rope, to hang him from this bridge, only to unload all of their rifles into him as he hung until their rifles severed the rope. I'm going to read you this last part. Hamilton County Sheriff Joseph Shipp had taken no action to protect Johnson. Despite rumors of a lynch mob, he had given most of his deputies the night off and refused to seek reinforcements from the National Guard or city police. After a reporter alerted him to the attack in progress at the jail, he walked into the jail and stood by as they assaulted and took this man out for his lynching. This was the first and only trial held in the Supreme Court's history in the entire United States. That sheriff and 5 other parties were found guilty. They all served very brief prison sentences, and then upon returning home, this sheriff was greeted with what was known as a hero's welcome and was instantly reelected into sheriff. 2,000 people attended Ed Johnson's funeral, and both of the attorneys who supported him had to flee from Chattanooga based on the threats they were receiving for their lives. But that's white black history, right? Do you know how much effort it takes to drown a town of people? Think about that logistically, what that takes. I want to make a series here on TikTok and call it white black history, because as a white person, I know we don't get taught the truth on America. I'll give you an example. It would be like the Tulsa Massacre, where Black Wall Street is what we called it, an extremely wealthy black neighborhood, was beaten and burned down. Another one's like the Wilmington Massacre in North Carolina in like 1898, where a group of white supremacists just decided to overthrow the local government that was biracial and then just kill all the black people. Show me that in your history book. Or you have like the CONTELPRO and like the targeting of black leaders from like 1950 something to 1971, where basically it was an FBI initiated program that was designed to infiltrate and target black leaders, black communities, anybody who was really outspoken against things. We just don't learn these things. Like literally the FBI and the CIA have been involved in the disparagement, displacement, and eradication of black people and their wealth for ever. Then when somebody brings it up, we sound crazy because you haven't heard it in a textbook in 6th grade. Why would we teach you you're the bad guy? It's crazy. It's crazy the amount of things that we don't get taught that are actual things. There was several black towns that were drowned. Think about that for a minute. Do you know how much work and effort it takes to drown a town because you don't like what they look like? Oscarville, Georgia, Choctaw City, Alabama, Seneca Village in New York, more recent, Cowalinga, Alabama, Freedmen's Towns in Texas.
When we try to hear this white man, the way he's trying to go deeply in white-black history, it is something really even understandable. It is something really interesting. Each and everyone need to know if you don't have any information about it. We've been talking about black, white history. Some people are trying to say why we always talk about black people's history, racism here and there. And when we are talking about something like this, we are trying to educate people to understand that when we are talking about American history, we need always to include black people's history because it is something really important. It's something which is connected to that land's history. When you try to hear this white man, the way he's trying to say black people has been living their best life. They are people of power. They are people who has resilience. They are hardworking, but each and every time they've been bringing a lot of barriers on their ways. They've been burning down all their communities after seeing them that they can sustain themselves. This is something our family don't want it to know, don't want to talk about, and yet they know a lot about it. No wonder when you see this white man, Brian, coming out to say something like this, people need to clap for him because it's not easier for someone to take that courage to come out and reveal this risking information like this. You were trying to tell us more about in the 80s, 60 something, what really happened. And yet when we come here to say about black history, about slavery, about the way black people are asking reparations, no one want to hear anything like that. They always saying that black people, they sit there creating stories about their history. They are crying, they are making an excuse, they are being racial profiling on each and everything. But try to hear very well. This is something, even though you can't find it in any books in schools, but we still have people who are still alive to share it with us, to know more about it. This is the right time. People need to understand very well that black history is deeper, more than we think, and it's very important to know something about it. When we see some white people always yelling whenever we talk about racial profiling or racism, this is something they are running away from. They don't want the society to know each and everything, how each and everything happened. If black people has been having more than 100 towns and you burn them down and you know that information, you know that history, and you don't want it to share it anywhere or in any book or school, you don't want your kids to know anything about it, you just want them to know what you want them to know. You are trashing people of color that they are nothing, they are minority, no one should value them, they are unhuman, they need to be treated in a bad way. But see, when we are coming on this side of the history, it is something really bad. How come even during Jim Crow, these black people has been thriving, has been trying their best level to survive, but still they pass through all this, and we are seeing people in history even saying something like this. You have heard this black lady is trying to tell us what happened in 1960 something, which is confirming what this white man is talking about. Imagine. Some people has lost their life, millions of people. Some people has fought a lot to come out from slavery. Even after that period ended, they kept go after them, trying to hunt them in any way possible. And this time around, when black people saying, if you would consider give us the reparations of the trauma and the atrocity you caused us and our ancestors, people don't want to hear something like that. They always saying, no, those stories are past. We don't want to hear the past. Guys, let me know what you think about this story. Drop your thought in the comment section. Thank you for watching. See you in my next episode. Bye.